I remember the warm walks around a vibrant, bustling city, an intricately decorated cathedral that surrounds worshippers in beautiful detail and history, a bombed-out church on another side of town preserved as a remembrance of the consequences of war, the wonderful welcoming smiles from hosts of local churches, singing in harmony and listening to new worship music in another language, learning about other cultures from people around the world who share similar faith journeys, laughing, dancing, debating, challenging, and embracing each other. These are my memories of Berlin and the Global Young People's Convocation. From July 21 to 26, 2010, our young people from the Pacific Northwest Conference joined together with others from all over the world for the Global Young People's Convocation and Legislative Assembly. Amy Pizan, Isaiah Roque, Meredith Stroh, Ryan Russell, Jamie Smith, Nika Romaine Stout, Olivia Benge, and Patrick Scriven served as representatives for the Pacific Northwest and Western Jurisdictional Conferences. The General Board of Discipleship, particularly the Division on Ministries with Young People, produced and coordinated this event. The very first convo took place in Johannesburg, South Africa, 2006. This is the second time this event has been held, with future plans to gather every 4 years. The GYPC-LA brought together over 300 representatives from different countries, including Germany, the Congo, Mexico, the United States, Lubumbashi, and the Philippines. The goal of Young People's Ministries is to help develop strong leadership within the general church and to bring them closer to God. With stirring messages from charismatic clergy to lively exchanges of ideas for the future of the church, our young people not only made great memories, but were also filled with great experiences to share with their local congregations in their respective countries. With so much intellectual and cultural diversity represented at the Convo, it's no surprise that unity was the overall theme of the event. Plenary sessions, activities, and worship services were translated into English, French, Spanish, and Russian to help unite us in our understanding. During worship services, we learned that unity allows us to be filled with the Holy Spirit. We were also reminded about the need to serve those outside of our church walls and into local communities. Some of the issues discussed during legislative sessions included homosexuality, extrajudicial killings, justice for ecology, and church finance and administration. Petitions regarding same-sex marriage and the involvement of the church brought out much discussion and emotion, with one session leading into the midnight hour. A few of our delegates at the Pacific Northwest Conference had this to say about their experience at the Global Young Persons Convo.
As a voting delegate, throughout the process, what really interested me the most was the different debates on whether homosexuals can be married, whether the priest can marry them within the church, or whether they can even be married within the church, whether it's our clergy or not who are marrying them. And one of the reasons it really interested me was because it really kind of divided the church. The groups from Europe, Eastern Europe versus Western Europe, from the Americas, from Africa, from the Pacific, really tended to have different ideas. All of them were, a lot of them were very adamant. They felt very strongly, even though quite often the ideas were different. And so it was interesting seeing the different perspectives where they came from and knowing that while we are one church, we still have some very different ideas on where things are. And from being from the Western jurisdiction, my views was quite often different than many of those from other countries like Africa. And it was interesting to see how many different people had different views and how strongly so many of them held those views.
Patrick Scriven is the Associate Director of Connectional Ministries, Youth and Young Adults, for the Pacific Northwest Conference. He served as a voting adult member of the Assembly, representing the Western Jurisdictional Conference in the United States. Scriven shares his insights in understanding one another during this legislative process.
At the GYPC, I had the opportunity once again to realize how little I know in talking with other folks from other countries and hearing other perspectives. And it was very challenging to incorporate and listen to all those other voices. Issues that we find so important in our church in the States are issues that people in other cultures, not that they don't find them important, but they're on a different level with them. And but there's other issues that are so important to them that we don't even talk about. And so we often spend a lot of time talking past each other. And so the value of communicating with each other, of sharing each other's stories, I was just re-impressed by that.
Opportunities to experience culture and hospitality were offered through excursion trips around Germany. Sites such as the Jewish Museum of Berlin, Checkpoint Charlie, the Brandenburg Gate, the Sachsenhausen concentration camp, and the inner city of Berlin were just some of the interesting places young people had a chance to visit. Isaiah Roki, a non-voting delegate, shares why the excursions are among his favorite aspects of the trip.
My thoughts about the trip, well, it's really awesome, so much culture going on, and we get to go around, see Berlin for what it really is, and what kind of things that people all over the world will be doing in their culture, and what they do for fun, and just even around the United States, what other kids do for fun. And turns out we're a lot alike, actually.
By experiencing these excursions to historical sites together, it fueled our understanding of faraway cultures, promoting unity with the world. Touring and worshiping at the Berlin Cathedral and local evangelical Methodist churches were also scheduled. On the third day of the trip, everyone from the Convocation gathered for an ecumenical worship service at the cathedral. Participants were able to worship in unique ways through various stations around the church. One station featured acoustic music and singing, while another featured a representation of the Berlin Wall, where one can write and leave prayers on post-its. Bishops Warner Brown, Rosemary Venner, Rudy Wan, Sudarshana Devadar, and Deborah Leader Casey were available as young people lined up for personal prayers. At the end of these excursions, several local churches in the Berlin area welcomed the young people for dinner, worship, and activities, all while learning about the ministry of the Evangelical Methodist Church in Berlin. Personal and interactive experiences helped us celebrate unity within the church. After almost a week of legislative sessions, excursions, and worship services, everyone gathered for the final dinner and closing worship. This event also served as a cultural celebration, with many dressed in traditional garb reflecting their respective cultures. Groups also had a chance to showcase their cultural talents through songs, dancing, and storytelling. Mighty Razing served as the master of ceremonies for the evening. Mike Ratliff, Associate Secretary of the General Board of Discipleship for Young People's Ministries, gave thanks to the Convocation's planning teams and delegates. Bishop Sudarshana Devadar and Linda Lee closed the fun evening on a spiritual note with their going forth worship messages. As these young people parted ways, representatives from the Pacific Northwest Conference reflected on the joys and insights from the Convocation.
It's been an incredible experience so far. This is my first time this deep into Germany, certainly my first time in Berlin, and it's also been incredible to spend time with other young people from all over the world, Africa, Philippines, Europe, Asia, and also from other parts of the United States.
Favorite moments have to be the train rides, because there's so much, just like everyone's there, and we do our own thing. Sometimes we sing praise songs on the bus even, and people would stare at us, but it's all fun and games for us.
And my other favorite part was last night when we went to a German Methodist church, and we had dinner together, and then right after we were invited to dance with them and got a lot of cultural dancing in, 3 different dances, and that was very exciting.
I've really just enjoyed some of this discussion. It's been frustrating at times when maybe it's not going so well, it's not going as fast as we'd like it to, but it's good to hear the opinions, and even people from diverse places share the same opinions. There's been some funny moments with translation, jokes or malfunctioning, but I have just been enjoying the whole trip.
Ryan Russell shares why the Convo is a great opportunity for young people.
I think that this event is a good event for young people to be able to go somewhere in the world. I think that as a first kind of trip abroad, which several of our young people it was, I think it's a good event because it is somewhat structured and there's not a lot of planning that goes into it on the conference's end, other than the travel arrangements. We don't have to plan, where we're going to go and what we're going to do, and all of that is pretty much done for you. So I think that that's a good thing, and I think that the church as a whole is striving to provide something for young people, and I think this is one way that we can be able to voice our opinions about what we would like to see, and a way to help provide something for us.
Our representatives offered up some insights for future attendees of this convocation. Patrick Scriven had this to share.
Sure. As they told us repeatedly, when you're translating things into 5 different languages, you need to talk slowly.
Amy Paysan also shares her thoughts for future delegates.
Come with an open mind and just allow yourself to experience what's happening, and don't judge things before they happen. Just go with the flow.
While many of us parted ways, we were all ready to welcome the opportunity to bring back these wonderful experiences to our local church communities. In traveling, eating, worshiping, sharing stories, seeing new places, understanding God's purpose, and uniting with one another in the beautiful city of Berlin, Germany, attending the Global Young People's Convocation was a great opportunity for both young people and youth workers who are young at heart.